good morning and happy Tuesday. Welcome to the program Newspaper Headline on iGate TV. And I am Benjamin Gustavo. I have with me today as well to look at this paper, looking at what the papers are saying in Nigeria. And of course, you know that every day we come here to make sure that we bring you the things that you need to know. Before you step out, perhaps you don't have the chance to go out and look at what the papers are saying on the newspaper stand. So we are bringing the newspaper stand to you wherever with me, joining me is Nathaniel Norris and Emmanuel Sarah. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program.
Good morning, sir.
Last time you were not here, but today you're here. So
Good to be here today,
okay,
Chief Mutsal.
that's fine. So, not wasting much time because we've started a little bit behind schedule. We will go to the first paper of our choice today. It's the Punch newspaper, and the Punch newspaper is bringing this headline, bold headline here. FG to short errand fuel stations as petrol hits 1,000 naira per liter, and the writer says queues persist in NNPCL major marketers stations as PMS shortage worsens. Again, you have the headline here, another headline you can pick there. WAEC or WAS, we better call WAEC here. ASU, NUT, GFAS and FG bans on the 18 candidates, and kidnapped doctors, patients grown as mad strike grounds hospitals. Just below the story there, the picture there, you have a 136 Eurobond African migrants rescued at Spanish port. And former Punch editor to present book on digital economy. ASU protests LASU members dismissal. Brands VC's enemy. Okay, Nigeria's first Olympic medalist Mayegun dies at 85. These are the stories we have on the Punch newspaper, but the story we are going to take on the Punch newspaper for now is FG story of to short errand fuel stations as petrol hits 1,000 naira per liter. Officially, it looks as officially we are buying the fuel price. It's one
Round figure.
We saw this, many people saw this coming when they said fuel subsidy is gone, high prices, and all of that. Some people say it will even come to a point that it may, well, we have 1,000 naira per liter. It's here, finally. No.
Well, Mutsal, the pains of Nigerians as far as the removal of fuel subsidy is by Mr. President, fuel subsidy gone, took effect. Immediately prices of products, even the ones that were bought at the price that was subsidized, went up. And now that it has hit 1,000 naira, the federal government is claiming they take measures against errant filling stations. I am wondering the kind of measures they want to take. Is it going against the errant filling stations by pegging the price at 1,000, or working towards policies in the petroleum sector that will stabilize the price? One would have expected that the removal of the subsidy, the government should have put in place measures that could maybe peg the price at a minimal level for Nigerians to afford. One of which is the issue of revamping the existing refineries, which has been a promise that has been made by government upon government, including this present government. But what are they doing? Is it just about getting to clamp down on errant filling stations? It's a product of the decision the government did make. So if you clamp down on the errant filling stations, what help would that render to Nigerians in the immediate? So I think but officially it's worrying if Nigeria, which is one of the largest producers of crude to be refined as end product for petrol for consumption for citizens, we are not able to have it available, and the price is going up up and up to the moment we're talking about 1,000 naira per price per liter now. It's quite disturbing. But again, it behoves the government. It's never too late to, work on a policy that will assuage the plight Nigerian citizens are going through. So at the moment, it's not just about the filling stations, it's just about the errand filling. It's not about marketers. It's about the government, because the government, as far as I'm concerned, is the chief regulator of the policies concerning this sector. So the government should act not on clamping down on errand filling stations that they are claiming, but we're introducing policies in the petroleum sector since the removal of the fuel. If it is possible, if the government can backtrace on its decision of removal of the fuel subsidy. After all, they said they have removed it, but marketers did claim that it is still being there, and they have not come out clearly to debunk whether it's not true. So I think we are in for hard times as far as the decision of the removal of fuel subsidy continue, and the prices are never coming down.
Charia, this price where this is 1 year and counting. It's on and on. Many stories about it. We've had the Dangote issue, where many people are now praying for October 1st. That is when they want to officially begin to serve again. Is it October? Yes.
September.
September. So when they begin to serve him in many Nigerians are waiting for that. It appears that there's so much interest in, of course there should be, in this crude oil. Do you think we're going to get out of this any soon? Because from what we hear every day, fuel, crude oil, Nigeria this, Nigeria this.
The common man wants to know if at all we'll go back to the good old days. You can imagine, Sam, that buying fuel at 200 naira plus was the good old days. We didn't know we were in heaven. We took it for granted. But right now, if you see someone selling fuel for 250 naira, we will all rush the person.
Number one, you have to check
whether it's real fuel or it's some water that will do something funny to your engines. Well, as we're going back or getting to the point where we get fuel more affordable than we are getting now, I believe we'll get there. It's just that the time, the end point, when we'll arrive at that end point, seems to be pretty unpredictable right now. When the government says they'll shut down or they would, tackle
Errand filling stations.
Would that solve the problem? It might even heighten, because scarcity creates, the law of demand and supply would create another, surge in prices. What we need to do right now is make sure that beyond Dangote, the other modular refineries like the one in Edo State and some others in other regions of the South, get all the support they can get, and in the shortest possible time, they start flooding the market with homemade, that is Nigerian brewed petroleum products. And then, if I were close to the corridors of power, I'll advise the president and those who are in the know and have the power to take decisions that government should have no business in managing the refining of petroleum products. These refineries that have been moribund for decades, and we have spent billions of dollars on turnaround maintenance, it's time for us to sell them off in a transparent process to others who are interested, the likes of Femi Otedola and co. But make sure that you sell them off to people who can actually make them run and give them terms of condition that will mean that this refinery should be up and running in at least 18 months. So that at the end of the day, Nigeria will be a net exporter of refined petroleum products. Not just saving us on foreign exchange, but also earning more foreign exchange. Now, let me surprise a few persons. I have supreme confidence in the present administration that if they knew, or they are taking their time to think it through, subsidy would not have been removed the way it was removed. If they knew the Cobra effect that would come with that pronouncement. And now that they have seen the effects, my appeal, I join with my colleague to appeal that this should be, it shouldn't, nobody needs to advise the presidency that this is an emergency situation. A national state of emergency should be declared even if not publicly, at least in the corridors of power.
Yeah, you said something that if they knew, they wouldn't have gone ahead with
Yeah, you
this
know,
policy.
unintended consequences.
But Nat, look at this. 1 year. It's enough to have gauged the consequence, and then go back and revise and say, no, no, no. We thought this was going to work, but it's not working. So
At this point, you can't reverse. It's irreversible right now.
But a government should have a way of gauging its policies. When you introduce a policy and you see its harsh effect on the citizens, a responsible government, nothing should stop you from reversing the policy, given the magnitude of hardship it has created. Every other thing in this country is tied to petrol. Talk about the cost of living, talk
It's not
about
even just this
the
country,
and
the whole world.
everything, you know. So the government should be responsible enough to own up that, yes, this decision was taken hastily. We need to review it and see how it can be given a new direction, maybe face it out gradually. The palliatives or temporary measures that should bring the policy to take effect should be put in place, first of all.
I was thinking that in the first 3 months should have been a pilot test.
Absolutely.
The pilot test of fuel subsidy removal and see whether it works. 1 month, 2 months, people were crying. We were seeing fuel the price going up 300, 400. Government was seeing it.
Absolutely.
500, 600, 800, 700. It stopped at
I
9.
can remember one. A day to the inauguration, I filled up the tank of my vehicle, and then that pronouncement was, and then that same night, I just went to the petrol station to find out what the cost was, and then it almost doubled. And then the following day, I went there again, and a few days later, I went with a colleague to get some fuel, and when I heard the price, I was like, wow.
So you see that. So it's very important. I don't know what was it, but like I saw a video in Lagos where even the liter of filling stations now some the petrol, the regulatory body.
It has affected the size of everything.
So
Everything.
they brought and measured that 1 liter was not 1 liter at all. I think it was more or less half. So rather, it was not half. They said that filling station was pumping air into people's car with the name of fuel, and they did that practically with the can, and that was what they got. So you can see meter does not read. It doesn't go up. So, but if he buys in another place,
So he's buying audio fuel.
more or less. So you can see that with this introduction of first subsidy removal and the rest, Shady D is coming and people are making their way. So, but let's go on. Let's go to the next paper. And the next paper before we go to, the next paper is Daily Trust. Daily Trust has a very interesting story here. 2.6 trillion loans despite 40% rise in park revenues. And the writer says 7.6 trillion released to states, LGs, yes, in 1 year, and 20% of June allocation enough to build 320 PHCS, primary healthcare centers, I guess. And experts urge accountability. And if you look at the infographic, you will see that the states, all the states there, what they are actually looking for, or what the loan they are looking for, or what a monthly allocation rather to states and the LGs. That is what you have there. June and so on. Kano, the infographic is there. You can pick it up there and see what you have. But if you go into the story, you will see that some of the states are demanding 36 billion and so on and so forth. I don't know what Benue is demanding, but I think when you go into the story, 34 billion. But the question here, just like the story says, 1.65 trillion loans despite 40% increase in FAC revenues. Not justified.
Well, you know, coming on the heels of the fact that Ogun State, or is it Ondo State, borrowed some loans over about 2 decades ago, and now the presidential fleet is affected. some properties of the federal government in foreign lands like the presidential fleet. Part of their jets were seized. We are now going for loans again. Are we collecting these loans to augment and pay the new national minimum wage? I doubt. Let's come back home. We are looking for 34 billion. Without budget, no one would know. Without the brilliant work that budget does, nobody would know that this is the case. What are we borrowing for? We have a government at the local and the state levels that does not share information with the public. Many a times you wake up and just see things happening. We always concentrate on the federal government and we ask questions, but we never really ask hard and tough questions to the government that is closest to us, which is the state. For now, autonomy has not started at the local level, so I would, ease up the local government councils that, control where we live. But for the state of Benue, the allocation is increase in allocation is beyond 40% for Benue State. It's beyond 40%. It's almost 100%, almost a doubling, if not tripling, of what comes to the state from the federation account. Whereas the overheads have not increased by as much as 5 to 10%. So you would expect a surplus, plus the income to the joint account has also more than doubled. So you expect a lot of surpluses when you do your subtractions and additions. So if you are looking for 34 billion, what is the payment terms for these loans? What are you getting these loans for? Of what benefit is it to us? What are the priority areas that you hope to address with these loans? What has happened with some of the palliatives that were even given that we heard nothing about? We hear so much about certain programs on radio and television, and we don't see them in real life. These are the questions that so many people will be asking. And I hope that we get the answers. And I appreciate the input of the likes of Budget, who always go to the dark alleys and bring out this information.
Now we'll look at this borrowing. The states that are borrowing, Anambra is going for 245 billion, Bauchi 59, Bayelsa 67, for Benue 34, and Borno is going with 41, Ebonyi 20, Edo 20. I think that is the list we have there, 20. All of them are going, what is going, but I see 103 billion and Enugu as well, and Imo is going for 270. So these governors, this huge, it's like they're telling us that the money we have is not enough. Their federal allocation is not enough.
Well, Mutaf, I think the current crop of governors we have in the country are the luckiest. And this vindicates some past administrations in the country, because when certain states were not able to pay salaries because due to the shortfall in allocation, dwindling resources accruing from the federation accounts to them, they were called names. They were vilified unjustly. But here we have the current crop of governors across the country, despite 40% rise in allocations to them, still seeking loans. And the disheartening, and maybe what I should pretend a deceitful aspect of it, is that certain governors still come out to claim that they are not borrowing, meaning they are seeking loans but shielding it from public knowledge. You understand? The case of Benue is a point. We have had times and again where the current administration in the state has come out to deny that they are not taking any loans or they are not seeking any. If they seek any, they will make it no public. Here we have information. This is a detailed investigation done by the Daily Trust newspaper. And if it is true, Benue in particular is seeking to borrow 34 point something billion. You understand? So it calls to question the transparency of our government, the transparency of the governors. They have never come out publicly to even acknowledge how much is accruing to them from the federation accounts. You understand? So if until this is done, coupled with the major interventions running in billions of naira, the last address, which Mr. President did address the country following the End Bad Governance protest, he read our figures of what has been dispersed to states in terms of interventions under several categories. Yet we never heard of this until the president did come. So what are these loans meant for at this time? That the federation allocation has risen. And look at what Daily Trust is saying, what the report also said, that the part of the allocation, the one for June alone, is enough to build 320 primary
20%
health
of the allocation.
centers. Have we seen the effect? How are these resources being applied to the benefit of grassroots Nigerians, that the hardship is never going down? So it calls to question the transparency of what our government is doing, including Benue, because we are a case in point. This administration currently has never made known publicly what is accruing to the government, and they have time and again denied seeking loans. But here we have revelations coming out. So we expect that the governors should come out and tell Nigerians what they are seeking these loans for.
If even before that, they should tell us how they have used
The allocations that have accrued to them, 40% rise of it.
Because you understand, because of course, if you are going to get those loans, as I said, they should tell us what they have used this money for. In the healthcare sector, what have you used it for? In other education, what have you used it for? And all of that. I know we talk about Benue. We say that yes, the present government came in and promised to revamp the education sector. So it's going for loans now. What have you done with the allocation you have? It's the same thing with other state governors. What have they done with the monies they have? Or is it payment of salary?
Well, I think for most of the governors, they feel like payment of salary is an achievement. But payment of salary is one of the basic and most mundane tasks. Sorry to use that word mundane, but just to show you that it's not really a big deal. Once the resources are there, it's straightforward. You pay. That's just it. And I think for some administrations, the mistake some of them are making is that they believe that these monies they are getting will keep coming like that without accountability. If I were a governor and I listened to the president's speech addressing the 10-day protest, I would become very, very careful. This is a president that sounded that day like in no distant time, he will start asking questions. What did you do with the excess allocations accrued to you over this period of time? Especially, Gustav, the political season of campaigns will soon be upon us. And for anyone that will try to play games with this administration at the federal level, that is when they will know that all these changes we notice with the intelligence agencies of Nigeria, hey, be careful. Sleep with one eye. Work with the money. Do not borrow anyhow. I mean, in the light of what has happened with the seizure of federal government property, everybody should be careful what they are borrowing. We are already complaining that we borrowed away our crude oil, we have nothing left. Now we don't have crude oil in a state like Benue, and you are going to collect loans. What are you mortgaging versus the loans that you are collecting?
The farm. Go to farm. Everybody go to farm, even though the security is not there to farm. So but we have to go to farm. We'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, we will continue with the papers. Don't go away. Okay, you're welcome back to the program. This is iGate newspaper headlines. We're looking at the papers, what the story headlines look like, and Daily Trust was the last paper we looked at. Looking at the 21 states seeking 1.65 trillion loans despite huge allocation, collecting huge allocation over 1 year plus. And it's as good as saying they have two buses now. Okay, one of this is filled up, so they want to also make sure this other side is filled. But how much? The question many Nigerians should ask is, how are they using this money? But the question again to ask, how can we monitor? How can we make sure that this government is transparent and accountable to people? How can the ordinary Nigerian ask questions?
Well, when we ask the questions, are they ever answered? But we're not, for us here, the reviews we are doing, even the media has been purveying the information. So now that some governors and who claim that they are never borrowing, the report is out. 21 states seeking, come out and tell us, deny the facts that have been stated in the newspaper. Nigerians should be holding our leaders accountable, and the accountability starts at the basic level of even the grassroots. Ask, when the resources accrue, what are they applied for? How is it used for your own benefit? We shouldn't be tired of asking, even though when we ask and hold the government accountable, we are never answered. Rather, we have deniers upon deniers, but we shouldn't be tired.
So when Nogo said ask, it brings me back to that, reminds me of the Bible saying that ask and you shall be given, seek you shall find, knock the door shall be open. Now what again? So it doesn't mean that this doesn't apply in government. Because you ask and you will not be given, especially when it comes to information on, that borders on expenditure and has to do with the money. But let's see how it goes. At the end
I
of
just
it,
want to correct something that may be misleading about this headline. When Daily Trust says 40% increase in FAC revenues, it's not 40% it's 40% year on year. What they're trying to say is 40% against when the administration started from June of last year to June of this year. In the last 2 months, they are referring to 40% increase versus the first year of this administration. If you look at the increment versus what it was when Buhari was on seat, it's about 300%. Yes, it is. So they are saying even after the massive increase in the first year, there's still an increase in this second financial year, and yet they are seeking for loans.
okay, so as I said, maybe they are not satisfied with the money. There's a particular place they want to go. So when they reach there, we'll get to know. But
we will not be singing "Carry Me Go Where I Don't Know."
Okay, let's go to the Vanguard newspaper, and the Vanguard newspaper carries this story, very interesting one, and outrage as FG pegs age for writing WAEC at 18 years. And the writer says, it will draw back education, that is NUT. We will go to court, parents. We will respond later, that's WAEC. And we want meeting of stakeholders, that is KONOA. And why parents rushing their children, that is ASU. Why are parents rushing their children? Don't rush them. ASU say don't rush them. We will implement state police, say Ondo, Rivers, Jigawa governors. And above the nameplate, you have AMCON enlists the National Assets Tracers to recover 5 trillion debt. Nigeria records 666,000 BPD below budget benchmark. Antiniba appoints Mohammed as DG, NIA and Ajay DG DSS. Many other stories to pick on that newspaper, on the Vanguard newspaper. But of interest is the outrage, the federal government's declaration that 18 years should be the one, any child that wants to write the exam should be 18 years. Less than that, you have to wait, even though you are very brilliant. Keep your brilliance for now. When you get to 18, then you can write. Chaya, how do you respond to this particular one, looking at what is happening now?
I am going to be on the side of ASU. I think the federal government deserves a round of applause. because we had begun to place so much emphasis on innuendos. Parents were rushing their children, feeling like the younger your child is in a particular class, the more brilliant the person is. And that is not true. Go to the civilized nations of the world, the first world nations, the likes of the US, Canada, the UK, and Germany. The average age of their college freshmen, that is what we refer to as jambites, is 18. One of the greatest basketball players that ever lived, who is currently still playing, LeBron James, was drafted from high school directly into the NBA and was 18 years old, meaning if he was going into the university or the college, as the case is, he would be 18. And that's the average age. In fact, in some territories across the world, it's a standard. You know, there's a difference between academic intelligence and emotional intelligence. There is what is called IQ, intelligence quotient, but there's also EQ, emotional quotient. A lot of times you have these young children, jambites at the age of 15, who leave home and go to universities and are very naive. This is why it is easy for cult groups, for people who have evil intentions to manipulate these young ones. Stop rushing children to school. Stop competing with your neighbors unnecessarily. Okay, your child goes to school, graduates at the age of 18, 19. So what? Where is even the work? Where is the work? You have young children nowadays with degrees who don't even know who they are in life. Talk less of being employable. And there are some who, okay, go through school. Brrr, they are 19. They have graduated from school. They even get a job and they don't even know how to manage themselves because of lack of maturity. There is a natural age for people to be in and be at particular points in their lives. I'm one of those parents who deliberately asked my children to repeat classes just so that they get to that age where they are more matured to manage themselves.
It appears you're not supposed to be in Nigeria. Okay, so now you look at this, but before well, let me have your own take. Then I can also get some factors, perhaps why parents are rushing their kids.
Well, Mutaf, I think I would differ from Chiavia's submission.
Yeah, you're welcome to differ.
Matter of fact is that this will not in any way solve the falling standard of our education in Nigeria. This is one of the least policies the federal government should be thinking of now. How does that add to the funding of public universities? How does that add to the funding of even education at a grassroots level? So the federal government should go for the main business and stop diversionary tactics. As a matter of fact, there's so much to be training a child with retirement benefits. At 18, you are tagging 18 should be the age for a child to take examination to graduate from secondary level of education. No, I don't support this decision. Why? Because there are so many factors which parents would, like I mentioned, one of which is that the dependency ratio we have in this country. You obviously, if you are in service, you are a working class, for example, you want to train your child. If the child have the intellectual acumen to be able to cope, take examination well below the age of 18 and pass, measuring of the intelligence or the teacher the training that gets the children prepared for the examination should be the immediate thing to be considered and not the age, because knowledge is not a product of age. Even maturity, to me, is not a product of age, because there are people who are old, but their maturity or knowledge or the sense of conduct they have could be tagged as that of a child. So, you understand?
Yeah.
So if one is below 18 but has the knowledge, has the comportment and maturity to take the examination way below that age, such a child should be able to say that until one attains 18. Because once you have that implemented, it means by the time that such a child is graduating, remember, sometimes you take these examinations more than once. There are candidates who may not pass at the first trial. So it means, if coupled with all
I was coming to that.
the strike we have in our public universities, recurring.
They might have to increase NYC age limit.
You
So,
understand?
35.
When you graduate, certain jobs are
what I was
advertised and they say
No more than 20.
age between no more than 20
With 15 years
should apply.
experience.
15 years experience. You are a fresh graduate. One is wondering where you have to go and buy the 15 years experience in a shop. You understand? So the federal government shouldn't bring up policies that we unnecessarily burden the immediate attention. This is not a policy that should be tinkered at this time.
Yeah.
The issue of fake degrees has been on. This is part of the reasons why people, because if a person is not able to pass this examination or take the examination at the age of 18 and eventually subsequent trials he does not succeed, or by the time he wants to be in the university he's already looking old or may not even have the time to go through the rigors of sitting in the class for education, such a person finds the easiest way of acquiring a degree from Cotonou or some of the fake degrees the federal government is also talking about. So, as a matter of fact, I am not in support of this decision. I think the government should not go ahead with it at all.
Yes, you actually said what I wanted to say. I was asking the question.
I'm the only Ghanaian in the house.
I was asking the question. Well, good policy, but will it stop strike?
Well, this is one of those times when I would say sometimes I don't know whether this administration just looks at a lot of policies and says, just choose at random. Let's focus on this one. This is not a bad policy, but it cannot be taken in isolation.
Yes.
I agree with Nongo. It is not a policy that will solve the question of the falling standard of education, but it is part of the problems we have. Now, the important thing is, if a child is exceptional, we have children that are exceptional. Even in those countries where you have median age at 18, you still find people at 13, 14 in colleges. Some even do the 4-degree course in a year or two and progress to masters and PhDs. The 4 years you are spending in college to get a degree, they spend it to get a PhD. And they are 15, 16, and they become lecturers and research assistants. These are exceptional cases. The funny thing is, this policy was there before. It was there, particularly when the colonial masters were around. You remember stories of our uncles and our daddies telling us that you have to stretch your hand, and you agree with me, until you touch your ear before you'll be admitted. That was a very simple trick to make sure that before you came into primary school, you were at least 7 or 8 years old. But if we do not make public education of standard and affordable, the private education's quality would also not be what it ought to be. Back in the day, at least some of us met when public schools were still relatively good. And we met where secondary schools were largely public and went to school at very affordable rates. Very, very affordable. Finished from Kusaki, a private school, where we used to pay relatively much more money. Went to Bristol, a public school that was one of the best in the country. And everything was run well. We didn't have enough facilities because at that point, Nigeria was passing through the first iteration of Buhari when one was at Bristol and then later Babangida. However, in terms of quality of teaching, there was no single private secondary school in the whole of the state. In the whole of the state, it was public. If we do not keep stripping public schools to enhance the private ones, then we can talk about some of these other, what I call extra accessories to education, like this type of policy.
Yeah. Yeah, so the many questions there for the federal government to deal with.
Also has issued a 21-day ultimatum for strike,
Yeah,
so they should address that
they should
and
address that one and
leave our kids to take their exams less than
Yes,
18.
it's very important. So that let's see what they can
Examination is not election. It's the age of suffrage. A franchise in Nigeria is because you'll be 18. You know.
Okay, so let's look at other angle of the story. Let's go to this day. This day says new spy chiefs trigger new expectation in nation security. We know that we have new men on the security angles. You have Mohammed replaces Abubakar as DG NIA. Ajayi takes Bichi's place as DSS. Tinubu charges new men to reposition agencies. and use experience to tackle security in the country. The issue of security in the country is one thing that we will definitely keep talking about on and on and on. But let's look at it. Do you think this replacement, these new guys coming on board, they have what it takes, or what it takes rather, to deliver and make sure this country is safe? We've been having several changes of men, but nothing seems to happen. Do you think this new blood in quote unquote will do something? No.
Well, the new chiefs have been appointed already, the DG, NIA, and that of DSS. The, the expectations are there. Security issues, serious concern in the country. So, given the tall CV of the two guys, Mohammed and Bichi, Ajaya, as published, as made available in the media, I think they should be capable of doing the job. But it shouldn't just, stop at just the usual lackadaisical attitude of attending to issues of insecurity. We have had to grapple with a lot of insecurity in the countries. Almost every part of the country is affected. The rising insurgency, banditry, but sometimes these service chiefs, it does appear they prefer going for maybe protesters, so to say. The one we had the end governance bad protest, bad governance protest recently. There were reports of some of the agencies, including the DSS. It was alleged that they clamped down on some protesters, some who are still being held in detention facilities. It shouldn't be so. Let's take the battle to the front, the war front. We are not at war as a country, but the insecurity ravaging does appear as if the country is at war with itself, because banditry, insurgency, armed herdsmen, invasion of terrorizing communities, so many to grapple with. So the new guys have a tall job, tall expectations. The new blood has injected. We're expecting that should bring something new that will add value in combating the rising insecurity in the country.
Okay, you have confidence in these guys?
Well, sorry to say, the tenure of Bichi has been inglorious. I also had my doubts about the man's ability to control the agency, because how he was appointed. Remember, one of those medical trips, several medical trips that the former president took, the immediate past, his VP, who was acting in absentia of the president, that was Pastor. One of the things he did was to order for his dismissal as DG. Then when President Buhari came back, Bichi was reinstalled as the DG of the DSS. That action alone, that period, I know right after that time, the president would travel and not hand over to the VP. No more. He would vacate, travel with his powers and what have you. And that alone left a bitter taste in my mouth, because it seemed like there was something afoot. It made it feel like that office, Naim Papa property, so to say. Finally, he's leaving the scene. And we hope that Ajayi, who has come to take over, will do a job. Yes, it's time for the DSS and the NIA to stop behaving like they are an appendage of the presidency when there are protests or misgivings by members of the public. Some of their operatives join the protesters. But anyway, that is also part of intelligence agencies across the world. That is what they do, from the CIA to the MI6 and the Israeli intelligence service. That is how they function. They infiltrate, gather, they are the unseen hand of the security architecture. And we hope that Ambassador Mohammed will live up to the billing and do the very best to help us overcome the myriad of insecurity challenges we have.
Yes, will have, speaking of this, security, that brings us to the point in our state as well. Recently, we had some 2 cases of assassination, if you followed what is happening in the state. So it's one thing that the government in power needs to step up and make sure that the lives of people who are in the states are properly secured, because and I learned, we read also that that of a guy who works with an NGO was killed, assassinated. I lately heard of a young lady, POS, was also assassinated. So this is how it began. So if these new guys are coming in, I know that they will also have to put some way of rejigging the states quarters, the states, the branches in the states, to make sure that they also live up to the tax, make sure that Nigerians, their lives are secure. Otherwise, as it's going, it's not safe at all. But let's look at this story on the Tribune. That will be our last paper before we go. The Tribune sets up 17-man advisors. Anyoko speaks on Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and Sudan, Canada, and reiterates why now it's best time to have new constitution. So Nigerian constitution is coming again. The news of Nigerian constitution is coming up again. The back and forth, the amendment and all of that. You think Nigeria will still have this new constitution? Do you think this constitution is not serving us?
You know, a very good textbook in the hands of a dullard does not guarantee first class. It doesn't. The constitution we have, there is so much about it that we have not even implemented, and we are not implementing. So it makes me wonder, why do we need a new constitution now? If not that maybe we just want to introduce new things. I do not suspect what they are doing has an ulterior motive. But for me, it would sound like my colleague Nong did say earlier on, I would rather prefer that we solve the problem that the common man has, which is the cost of living. Let the patriots focus on that. The constitutional review, the need will be automatically more visible when there is food in the stomach. You know, if you check very well, there is a reason why no school schedules mathematics in the afternoon. In as much as it is vital, it is scheduled. It's one of those subjects that we need to schedule Friday evening, Friday afternoon. You know, even if people are not interested at that point, we have done the needful. The mass that the people need right now is for a mudu of gari to come down from 3,000 to at least 1,000. For a liter of fuel to come down from 1,000 naira to, even if it is 300, we will say, praise the Lord. Deal with these issues, then later you can. If not, the constitution will go the way of this our old new national anthem. It will be introduced, and many people will sing it for 2 weeks and forget it altogether again. Right now, at public events, when you say sing the national anthem, everybody turns to deaf and dumb. Apart from the MC, who will by force have to learn it so that he or she will not goof.
Or you play it.
I greet all the MCs. No, you play from the DJ.
No, but let me have your thought on this call for new national new constitution for Nigeria.
Well, would have the call coming from the Patriots, a group led by former Commonwealth Secretary General Chief, very strongly. But I doubt if the current government will have the will to set up the machinery for drafting of a new constitution. Here on this program, I have told you before that for a new constitution to be drafted, it means it has to go through the process of having in place a constituent assembly in which members of that constituent assembly that draft the committee conducted for the country subsequently, so as not to have their the kind of the issues that we drive their own interests impute. Granted, the current constitution as we have was handed down by the military junta, and Nigerians may be persuaded that it is no longer responding to their yearnings and aspirations. I don't think it's about meeting the yearnings and aspirations of the constitution, current one we are using as it is, but it's about the will to get it enforced. The flaws may be there, but the institutions that should get the constitution enforced appears to be weak, including the judiciary.
Yeah.
Time and again, we have had issues that the interpretation that the judiciary gave, drawing from the constitution, have given Nigerians a cause of worry. Most of the issues are linked to political leadership. How we have had governors and president being the subject of litigation, and eventually it does appear as if it's the judiciary or the courts that are pronouncing who is an elected leader and not just the electorates anymore. So these are some of the challenges. The electoral law is one of the major issues that has agitated the minds of Nigerians as far as this cause for drafting of a new constitution are concerned. So for me, I may support it, but it's not an immediate thing to be considered and adapt. If this current government will have the will to bring up a constituent assembly for the drafting of a new constitution.
The question I'm asking is, this patriots, is it not better for us? Which one is quicker? To the thoughts that you have, to bring them into the old constitution, or going back to start from the beginning? That's my question. I'm just asking, can't we just go the shorter way and bring those things that you want to make into this constitution, or this constitution is completely not working?
Because a review is already initiated by the National Assembly.
So that we don't waste so much of time. Anyway, but that is that's how far we can go on the program today. And sincerely thank you, Nongu and Taria, for coming on the show for today. My name is Benjamin Gutav. I'll see you next time on iGate TV. Keep watching iGate Television. Bye-bye for now.